things, if they wish to, amongst a whole series of choices, you can only get ahead by making goods and services that people voluntarily want to buy. Voluntarily want to buy because they believe those goods or services make them better off. So you move from a society where you get ahead by making people worse off to a society where you can only get ahead by making people better off. That's a profound change in dynamics. It also changes the political dynamics. When you have state cronyism or state capitalism, obtaining political power is everything. It means economic power too. So you have to exclude other groups to benefit yourself. With economic freedom, with free markets, you get ahead not by excluding others, but again by producing the best products. So instead of having group set against group, if anybody from any group can form a business, you start cutting across these lines. People from other groups become your employees, your suppliers, your customers. Now, I'm just going to show you some quick graphs. The Fraser Institute produces what's been called the best measure of free markets in the world. This out of 10 shows you the world average, the top 10 average, the advanced European average, which you'll notice is well ahead of the world average. Where does Tunisia stand? Well below the world average on the level of free markets, economic freedom. And what about that great period of reform? In other words, almost no change. All the time the World Bank, the IMF, and Ben Ali were saying, we're going to neoliberalism, we're going to free markets. They just they just substituted one sort of cronyism for another. That makes the challenge ahead for people like Baudouin very difficult. I just want to take a look at the impact of free markets. So the quartile on your left is the average per capita income of the freest economies in the world. The average per capita income is about $39,000 a year compared to the least free economies, which is about $6,000 a year, and Tunisia would be in the second quartile and probably a bit below that average at around $10,000 a year. People often complain that free markets increase inequality. As a matter of fact, and while this chart disappoints me, it's a random walk. If you look at it, the poorest 10% receive about the same share per capita income in the freest economies versus the least free economies. Now, of course, the way you get that wealth, the way you become part of the top 10% is very different. You make people worse off in non-free economies, you make people better off in free economies. By the way, just as a side note, the United States is now declining significantly in economic freedom and free markets, and you're beginning to see crony capitalism develop there. But that's another story. But because free markets produce such greater levels of prosperity, this is the per capita income of the poorest 10%. Nearly $10,000 a year in purchasing power adjusted terms versus about $1,000 a year for the least free countries. In other words, the poor are massively better off in countries that have free markets, and that will be very important to stabilize Tunisia. This is political rights, and this is corruption. One of the very interesting things about economic freedom for free markets is they take away the fuel for corruption. If you need to ask somebody's permission to do something, somebody, crony, either in crony statism or crony capitalism, corners the markets that you need their permission to get in. then there's somebody to buy off. There's a bribe to pay. However, if there's an economically free society and there's no one's permission to ask, there's no one to bribe, there's no one to pay off. By the way, I should say these slides are just snapshots in time, but they're all supported by very significant research. Economic freedom and life satisfaction or happiness. You know, our friends on the left used to say, well, who can be free in a dog-eat-dog, capitalist, free market world? But the research is actually showing is people like to have control of their lives. They have higher levels of life satisfaction in economically free or free market societies and less in non-free market societies. Who would have thought people like to control their own lives? Economic freedom and civil rights, same sort of pattern. And I'm going to follow everybody else's example and be a good boy and finish on time. All our data is available for free download at this site. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fred. And now our last speaker for this panel, Mr. Thomas Lipp, head of the Religions for Peace and the European Council of Religious Leaders in Switzerland.
Thanks, moderator. I want to be a good boy too and not speak too long. And as a Swiss, I prefer discussions than statements. But nevertheless, thank you for the invitation. I'm a Protestant pastor. I was president of the Swiss Protestant churches, and I have to represent my church to the government, even there is a strong distinction, separation of state and religion in Switzerland, as you know. But I'm here now as a moderator of the European Council of Religious Leaders. That's part of Religions for Peace Worldwide, very active in Africa and Asia. And this is the only interreligious or multi-faith body organization network in Europe. We have members from 7 Jews, there are Muslim members, Christian ones, and also, of course, of all other religions working together. Very strong women, I agree. The majority of the members of religious organizations want peace. That's very clear. That's Religions for Peace. And I'm convinced that we are too much focused on the right and left wings, on the majority of all people believing in something or even believing in humanity. They want peace. That is our conviction, and we have to cooperate worldwide. We do it in Europe in building interreligious councils in many countries, because it's our conviction that religious religions have a huge responsibility to support society and politicians in building a peaceful society. They play an important role. So we are dealing now for the moment with the migration and refugee challenge in Europe. There's a huge challenge. Having 2 million people from other cultures and religions is a chance, but also a challenge. And we have to be very careful how to do it. Or we have a project as an example, because the mayor of London and the mayor of Berlin and other mayors, they are interested to know how the big cities in Europe are dealing with this multicultural, interreligious challenge. And so we are the platform, European Council of Religious Leaders, for the sharing of best practice. I have two points to our today's question. The first one, the democratic transition from outside. People in Europe and in my country, in Switzerland, are very aware what happened in this region and in Tunisia. This very interesting, you mentioned, transition to an Islamic-rooted, democratic, open, transparent society which allows plurality in thinking and living. That's a very interesting process, and you are an example with great importance, not only here in this region, but also in Europe. I think Tunisia plays a pioneer role in this movement, in this work. I'm aware that you deal with many obstacles and very much a lot of tensions, but nevertheless, as a Swiss and a European, we learned that this process needs time and patience, and needs a common vision, a spiritual and intellectual vision. And I think yesterday I had a discussion with many people. It's important to have this vision. All over the world and also in Europe, we know from the past that in this region, Arab region, the religions, they cooperated very well together. They live together. And we need to have this vision that being from different religions doesn't mean to have tensions. No, it does mean to cooperate. And this transition of Tunisia needs time. You remember that Switzerland had 900 years to do it. 900 years. And yet, we have to be very careful and to make the young generation aware what democracy means, what it means from inside. And the second thing I want to underline, having a look to your process in Tunisia, I think you have to trust the people. In our direct democracy in Switzerland, we have these votations every 2 months. And we are asking people, what do you think about this and this and this? And sometimes we are a bit afraid, what does the population say? And you have to trust. I think in the whole history of my country, to trust the people is the best way. Even sometimes they make decisions I don't understand and I don't agree. I remember this crazy banning of minarets in our constitution, but that will go over. Our Swiss Muslims are very pragmatic. We say in 20 years we will change this paragraph of the constitution. We don't fight. I'm happy about this. So to trust the people means for the politicians that you have adult citizens. They will talk about our country, our future. It's not the future of some leaders somewhere, it's our future. That's democratization. And the second point, it was mentioned, the integration of the young people. I understand very much, and I had a talk with a minister of the government yesterday, the perspective for the young people. Young people are not the future of a country. They are the present. They are present now and here. And the second point, I hope I'm in time. Yes, the role, religion is a fact. Even you are not so much committed to your own roots of religion, or a humanitarian one. Religion is a fact, and religion itself is not good. It's not good. To quote our Holy Scripture is in a way neutral. We have to make a good interpretation of religion with the heart and the head. And so as religious leaders and believers, we are in a common challenge. I had a discussion with Sheikh Al-Tayyib from Cairo. He said in a conference, Islam has nothing to do with violence. I couldn't say this from my own religion, Christianity. Of course, we have to be serious and to ask, where are possible roots of violence in my own Christian tradition? And so I think everybody has to do it. It's not my role to tell you what you have to do with your religion, but we have to be more honest. And there is a misused Christianity. I could give you examples. It's not only the Islam is enough. So we have as religious leaders to be very honest together, that we have the ambivalence of religion to the good and to the bad being instrumentalized by nationalistic politics. So I'm very interested how Tunisia will deal with this in Islamic values-rooted open society. That's very interesting how you deal with it, and to become an open, pluralistic, in Islamic values-rooted society. That's a very important process. And I think the religious freedom, equal rights, human rights is the basis of a new society. And that's why I think Tunisia plays a very important and also pioneer role. And we in Europe, we can learn from your experiences here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Now we have about 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions or comments about what has been said so far on this panel, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. Yes, please. The microphone, please. Where's the microphone? One, you say. One.